You've just seen a video wrap-up that brought all the course elements together. In this video, we'd like to do the same for the hydrogen case study. We'll apply the principles that we learned in that project. We highlight two key risk areas, the commercial and the technical risks, and we'll suggest how we could mitigate them. First, we'll look at the commercial risk. The hydrogen project will require an enormous investment, and before we can hope to attract the funding, we will need to demonstrate stable and predictable hydrogen sales to our funders. The commercial risk is by far the most important risk, and the offtake arrangements will be key to getting this project funded. We need to overcome two challenges here. The first is that there is only an early stage hydrogen market. Demand is still very small. Hydrogen has been coined as the future energy source for many years, but the hydrogen market has been slow to take off. We are convinced that the market participants are waiting for each other. The hydrogen users, transport and chemical business wait for a stable hydrogen suppliers market to form before they will be prepared to invest in hydrogen assets. The hydrogen suppliers, on the other hand, will wait for stable and bankable off-takers to form before they will be prepared to invest in hydrogen production facilities. And finally, the financial sector waits for both of these before it is willing to fund such initiatives. So how do we solve this waiting game? The second challenge is that the local market in Tunisia is small. The offtake of hydrogen will be insufficient there, even if the hydrogen market were to grow. If we do not mitigate these risks, the funders will be forced to bear them, and financial markets are not able to manage a hydrogen risk. We will need to find a better solution, or else they won't fund our project. A very interesting building block that was given in the case study is that the European market is close by, and that it has many large and stable energy companies. These could be stable off-takers of the hydrogen. For example, a company like Total of France or Eni of Italy. Another very interesting building block is that the European Union has an active hydrogen strategy. The EU is keen to support the development of a hydrogen market. And the EU has an enormous energy market, and it is financially very strong. If the EU can support the project, that would help to de-risk the offtake for the funders. The financial support of the EU could take the form of a capital subsidy or a soft loan. An example of a capital subsidy would be that the EU funds a quarter of the required equity investment, or it could grant a loan at a very favourable interest rate of, say, only 1%. However, both of these options would not be our favoured route, and we have two reasons for that. Firstly, this would only solve a part of our funding project problem. We still need to find co-funding, and co-funders will still have the same commercial concerns. Secondly, this subsidy solution also does nothing to solve the real underlying problem, which is that there is market uncertainty for hydrogen sales. For an optimal allocation of the risks and rewards, we propose the following layered approach. 1. Or a number of financially strong European companies would contractually agree to offtake the hydrogen for their business processes. They commit to buy the total volume at the market price. The fact that the EU is willing to support this project should give these off-takers the confidence that the project is real and stable. Tunisia will be entitled to offtake a proportion of the hydrogen for its local economy. Tunisia may also be offered a small ownership stake in the project company. These two measures can create an ongoing incentive for Tunisia to allow and support the project. The second step would be that the EU offers a revenue subsidy in the form of a minimum price guarantee for all the hydrogen sold. This removes the risk of fluctuating prices and ensures that the project always realizes a predictable revenue from its sales. The guaranteed price level is fixed to be just enough to support the funding. An added benefit is that if the market price of gas increases, as it did recently due to the Ukraine war, no subsidy may be required. Tunisia, the third step, may agree in a government support agreement to support the local profile and the operations of the project. For example, by dealing with local stakeholders, such as residents and NIMBY issues, not in my backyard protests. And in the same agreement, it could commit to do no harm to the project, for example, through nationalisation or policy changes. Fourth step, the EU or a European credit insurance company may agree to bear the political risks associated with a country like Tunisia. Now we have devised an effective offtake structure. Let's now look at managing the technical risks, which are also important risks. The case explains that there are two important technical partners in our project. There's solar fields for the solar plant and electrogas for the high temperature electrolysis process. We are told that this process is innovative and not yet proven at such a large scale, and that it does not yet have a very long track record. At the same time, the HT electrolysis will be critical for the project. No hydrogen, no sales. Therefore, this is also a risk that we must manage carefully. The normal rule for project finance, as you know, is that we allocate the risk to the party best able to manage it. Technically, that's beyond any doubt Electrogas, our co-sponsor. But the case also tells us that Electrogas is a small company and that it does not yet have a strong balance sheet. If delays or problems were to occur in the project, and if that would require an additional investment, Electrogas may not have the financial resources for this. So how do we deal with this issue? We propose the following range of measures to overcome this challenge. We conduct technical due diligence on the plans and the process. This due diligence report is prepared by an engineering firm that has relative expertise. This will hopefully help to identify any weaknesses, and it may enable Electrogas to plan thoroughly ahead. The due diligence report can also quantify a reasonable funding amount that should be kept as a contingency. For example, the DD report may establish that the costs could overrun by 20 million, and that 20 million should under normal circumstances be enough to cover unexpected costs. The second step, we ask the co-sponsor, Solar Fields, to commit to an additional conditional capital injection of this 20 million. This standby capital injection should enable the project to be finished even if an additional investment should become necessary. This solution would require Solar Fields to bear the risk, a risk that is not core to its own business, which is not ideal. But if we are assuming it has the financial resources to keep this amount standby, and as a technical company, it is the closest we have of all the stakeholders to absorb this technical risk. Of course, Solar Fields should be rewarded for their contingent capital contribution through an additional shareholding in the project company. Its interest may, for example, increase from 80% to 86%. It would then be rewarded for the successful rollout of the project through a higher profit share. If Solar Fields is unable to absorb this risk, we will need to seek some kind of government support, for example, a development credit. Finding this will not be easy, we assume that Tunisia has no such arrangements in place. Otherwise, perhaps the EU would be prepared to fund the required technical contingency. It is, after all, a small investment for the EU to make to secure a significant step towards hydrogen independence. That also concludes managing the technical risk. Through the described steps, we have been able to put together an effective package that mitigates the two most important risks. It will help to secure the funding and reduce the cost of that funding. This is all we have for you in the case study. We hope that it has been enjoyable and enlightening for you. It was a complicated project due to its innovative and international nature. The idea behind using specifically this as a case study is that working through all the issues in practice helps you to digest the information and understand it at a deeper level. This was also the last of our videos. We hope that you have enjoyed them. This also ends the course. We hope that it has lived up to your expectations and wish you a lot of success in putting these matters into practice in your project management endeavours. Bye-bye to you all, and thank you for your ongoing attention.